Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, culturally adapted therapy to work with Latino children and youth. So welcome. I'm really glad and happy to be here with all of you. I think that this EVP is so amazing and effective with our Latino communities. So this is the main reason that we are presenting this topic today for all of you. I hope you enjoy. I recommend, like, if you have a notebook, I know sometimes through the presentation I will be providing some recommendations or resources that you can incorporate in your private practice. So, like, if you can take notes, and also usually what I do is I divided my notebook on two areas, and in one area I take notes, and on the other I do a to-do list of things that I need to look for or resources that I need to read and things like that. So I encourage you to do that. Next slide, please. So mostly today I will be talking about the TF-CBT components. I think this is like more a basic webinar presentation. Some of you that are already trained in TF-CBT, I apologize, maybe it could be a little bit boring because you already know, but some of the things that I'm gonna try is to talk about a specific case of a Salvadorian girl that I worked with a few years ago, and how I implemented different cultural values and how to work with Salvadorian families. So also through the presentation, I will be talking about the components and how to incorporate the adaptations to the model. I just want to explain also that I'm not certified as a TF-CBT clinician. I received the training, but I'm on my way to have my TF-CBT certification. And also I encourage all of you to take that type of certification. This presentation at the end, I have the link of where you can be trained in TF-CBT. Next slide, please. So culturally modified TF-CBT it could be used in schools, it could be used in residential facilities, it could be used in private practice, and also it could be delivered through telehealth. So this is something that it is amazing, and we can do right now that everyone needs to be in their houses. That is something that it could be delivered through telehealth. So the primary goal of this therapy is to reduce PTSD symptoms that we can observe in our clients. And we know that there's a lot of Latinos that experience a lot of trauma experiences, just like violence, immigration, domestic violence, also sexual abuse, and other type of abuse. So this therapy will help to decrease those PTSD symptoms. And it's a therapy that could be implemented and that the parents can work with you inside the therapy. So it is a type of therapy that could be not just for the kid, but also it includes the parents in the process of delivering it. So one of the things that will make the cultural modification to the basic TF-CBT is the incorporation of different cultural values. Okay, so some of the most specific cultural values that we can talk is the familiarismo. It talks about the importance of the family, like familia viene primero, or families go first, right? Personalismo, it is like a close relationship with the providers. Respeto, it means respect, like to have a knowledge of different ages, and usually the grandma or the mom in the family is the one that have more authority. And Marianismo and machismo. So those cultural values is something that we need to incorporate through the delivery of this TF-CBT. So one of the values that I want to talk a little bit is the fatalismo. Can we go to the next slide, please? So fatalismo is the concept that the individual cannot change their fate. In other words, is when people say like, esto va a ser así para siempre, or this is gonna be like this forever, o Dios dijo y se hizo. There are some sayings that people said in the Latino culture that are really fatalistic, right? That is like that and nothing is gonna change. So this concept could affect a little bit the therapy process. And this is something that we need to be aware of while we are providing psychoeducation and also while we're delivering the services. We can explore if there's fatalismo in the family that we are working with, because not all families that is value, right? Another value that comes together is spiritualidad or spirituality, or religiosity. So a lot of Latino families, they are Catholic or other type of religions that those values could be incorporated through our sessions. And this is something that we need to take the time to explore and to ask how this affect therapy, how this benefit our therapy sessions, and how we can incorporate your cultural belief inside of therapy so you can reach your treatment goals. The next slide, please. I'm gonna ask a question to all the participants about the cultural values. Could you let me know which of those cultural values have you incorporated when you're delivering services to Hispanic and Latinos? To Hispanic and Latinos, like which value do you think is the most important or that has been really successful for you?
Isa, could you repeat the questions? Somebody wrote like if you could just repeat it so they make sure they answer.
Okay, so the question is, what is the most significant cultural value that you have incorporated while delivering TF-CBT with your clients? Okay. Cindy, could you read some of the responses?
Yeah, some people are asking. Yes, you can definitely add it on the chat or the question box. So someone answer all. A lot of people have said spirituality, family, machismo, personalismo, uh, relaxation, cultural humility, and yeah, that's basically the different ones we've gotten. So
Perfect. They're so wonderful. I think that spirituality and familismo, respeto, all that you mentioned, so I think different like a is more present and that is more so with them is something that we can do. We can use the cultural formulation interview to explore a little bit more about the values, and then you can incorporate it in the delivery of the TF-CBT. So cultural modify TF-CBT, they have the main components are the same as the regular TF-CBT. It includes psychoeducation, affective, cognitive coping, trauma narrative, in vivo exposure, conjoined parental sessions, and enhancing safety and future development. So conjoined parent and child sessions, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Your audio is sounding like kind of robotic. I don't know if you call so that we get better. For some reason,
Sorry. Can you hear
sounding
me a
very
bit
well.
better now?
No, it's the
I
same right
apologize
now.
for that. Is this okay? Now is it more, Cindy? Is it better?
Well, I can hear you better now. I'm not sure if you want to try to leave it like that, and if it something else happen, I'll just again.
Exactly. You let me know. Yes, because we want everyone to hear this. Okay, thank you. The things that are components of the that you have on that slide, usually those combine parent and child. This is
It's the
be
same.
your right since the beginning. The parents can be the parents, the mother, or the father, or if you have a foster mother or foster father, they could be there with you in by this treatment. It is there, but it's not almost at the end. Parents, you can have like collateral sessions with just the parent. Next slide, please.
Is having you with difficulty.
Okay. Okay, let's see if now is better. Is it better, Cindy?
Isa, you can go ahead.
Or
I don't know if you can hear me.
now I can hear you. Yes, now
Okay. Can you call?
I think I have.
Is break?
she's trying to everyone wrote it on the chat, but just making sure that she can um call in because that should get a better audio quality. So as soon as she does come back, we will continue. And if you need something repeated, I'll just let her know.
Hello now? Hello now? Hello now?
Yes, Isa, we can hear you.
Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Yes, Isa, we can hear you. Okay, now I'm gonna be presenting. I apologize for the inconvenience of my internet. I'm back. Thank you for your patience, everyone. So, Cindy, let me know if everything is okay. Okay.
Everything sounds good.
Okay, perfect. So another of the things that we can incorporate in our culturally modified TF-CBT are the dichos or covers and also cuentos or short stories. So in our culture, right, we have different kind of dichos that help people to get inspired, to feel more empowered, and also to feel that yes, I can go through this, I can beat this, or I am stronger than a thing, right? And some of the dichos that we use frequently as the después de la tormenta llega la calma. I know sometimes it's difficult to translate some of the dichos in English, so this is the best that I did after a storm comes a calm. And I think this is something that you can explore if the client has a specific dishes that they use to feel better and empowered. If not, you can provide to them some of the dishes so they and explain to the kids and to the youth. During affect regulation, clinician may take in consideration the meaning of some words that our clients use in Spanish to express suffering or to express or through the narrative when they are providing details related to their traumatic experience. I think it is really important for the client to process those experiences in the language where they experience that adverse experiences, right? Let's say if the child was growing up in Guatemala or Mexico and their memories are in Spanish, maybe inside the therapy session they can talk in Spanish about what they went through. Or if you're only an English speaking therapist, you can let them know, okay, you can do it in Spanish, and then after you feel a little bit better, you can translate what you said in English to me, okay? Or if you can incorporate an interpreter inside the therapy session, this is something that could be a good resource or recommendation. And cuentos are short stories. We can go to the next slide, please. So here on the next slide, I present a short story that is in the book of TF-CBT book. And they have like, I think, two more short stories. You can look on the references. I have the name of the book and the author, Cohen, Manerino, Dublinger. They did an amazing job. They are the developers of this therapy. And also Michael de Arellano was the one that talks in chapter 10 about the modifications to the Hispanic and Latino population. So
this book you need to have this one because it's amazing. So this the Little Red Ant is a short story that you can share with your clients and talk about what you learn from the story and how the little ant was encouraged and how he asked for her right for help, and if something like this happens to you, what you can do or what you will do. Okay, so this is like some of the modifications that are inside the TF-CBT, but I'm gonna go through more specifically through all the components using a case that I work with. Next slide, please. It is important to understand that foreign-born Latinos adolescents utilize health services at significantly lower rate than U.S.-born Latinos. Immigration statuses, language, culturally insensitive providers affect engagement response to treatment. So implementing treatment in the aftermath of trauma will require to take in consideration the overall needs of the child and also of the whole family. As a clinician, we need as a clinician to pay attention to the barriers in treatment delivery, and during the process of the run, and also in the engagement process specifically. Because if our client is not engaged with the services, and mostly also they're gonna drop out from the therapy, and we need them to finish right all the sessions. Usually ours from 12 to 16 sessions. But I think the one that I did with my client was almost 20 sessions because it was a little bit more complex case. So next slide. Some of the strategies that we can incorporate to establish that engagement. I know there's a lot of therapies asking how we can get clients, how I can help my clients to stay and be consistent also with their therapy sessions, right? I have seen that now using telehealth, they're a little bit more consistent in therapy sessions, so that's good. And also, some of the things that we can use to establish any for mental health care. What does it mean? It means that provide psychoeducation to the parents about why it is important to be inside therapy sessions, and also enhancing the caregiver's motivation for treatment. Maybe the parents go there to receive services, or their PCP refer them to services, and they don't even know why they're there because maybe the kid is behaving or time and take extra time with Latinos to provide psychoeducation, to let them know what are a therapist, what is a psychologist, a counselor, and also I think that you will not, as a therapist, you will not prescribe medication. Also letting them know that it doesn't mean that they're crazy, that can están locos, because this is something that is really, the stigma about mental health is really strong. And when you provide education, information, maybe using different videos, it will help them understand that, yeah, you're here, we're gonna work through this together. I'm gonna provide some recommendations that you can implement. And this is a growing process for the therapists, but also for the clients and the client's family. So it's a two-way process. If your client, we need to explore previous therapy experiences, because sometimes they went to a therapist that they didn't know about cultural values, or therapists that didn't know how to treat Latinos or know about cultural factors that impact the way we see life or the way we see different situations, and specifically, I would say religious belief and spiritual belief that are crucial, right? So it is important to explore what helped the person, if the person was in therapy before, and what did not help. This is a question that I always do. When I have a client and they're saying to me that, yes, I have therapy for this long and I didn't like it, or I always like, how was therapy? What are the things that you learned from your previous therapist? What are the things that you continue to use that you learn and that are helpful, and also the things that weren't helpful, because it would let you know things that you're not gonna try to include if the person does not like it or enjoy it. Also, providing assistance in overcoming concrete barriers. As Latinos, we can have difficulties with people that only speak Spanish, or you have the kind that only speak English, and the mom and the father only speak Spanish. You can use interpreters for that. Try to check the internet connection, right? Like me today. Sorry for that. Sometimes those are barriers, if the person has an internet connection or not, and if you're seeing the client in the office, if they have transportation or not. So try to check the barriers that they are experiencing. For the client, for other clients, I usually on the clinic that I used to work, they have like a needs assessment questionnaire where they ask different questions related to, do you have a bed? Do you have money for food? Do you feel safe in your house? Do you have a fridge or a stove, right? So they ask different questions, and when the person said, okay, I don't have a fridge, or I'm sleeping on the floor, and things like that, so we try to connect the family with different resources around the community. So check for that also, and establish a collaborative working relationship. This is a two-way process, right? And try to take, we know that we need to finish intake and paperwork, but try to take a little bit extra time during the engagement process and while you're providing psychoeducation. I think this is key. Next slide, please. Development of the therapeutic relationship, right? So to build that therapeutic relationship, what are the things that we need to take into consideration is the most important thing in the process. It will help you to to accomplish the therapy goal, right? And there are different things that could impact that relationship: justice, oppression, discrimination, previous bad experiences with other mental health providers. So that this is why we need to take that extra time exploring what happened with this client, how we can improve our services. Do you have any questions about what is a psychologist or what is a therapist? And do you have any question on what we are going to be doing here? So try to maybe use a video, or I usually talk about movies. Do you watch this movie where the person was laying down on the sofa and there was a psychologist next to him, like writing or maybe doing some drawings and things like that? So I try to explain that is not the kind of therapy that I provide, and I try to start with that example. Okay, so we can continue to the next slide, please. So here is the different components of the TF-CBT. I have this in Spanish because I know there's a lot of therapists that here speak Spanish and need a lot of instruments and resources in Spanish. So this is something that you can copy paste or take a screenshot and use it through the therapy process. One of the things that a friend of mine did in our center is that using different the big Legos, the mega Legos, we did like a stair, and in each of the stairs we wrote down the different components, like learning about trauma, managing stress, and things like that. And then we have a Lego that the person can go up, the client can go up every time that they accomplish one of the components. So this is something maybe you can try to do. The next slide, please. It talks about the TF. This is the one in English. And the next slide, please. I will be presenting now the case that I used to work with, and I changed her name and identity just to because of confidentiality, right? Want to make sure that she's safe. So I used to work with this 6-year-old girl and with her mom. They experienced domestic violence while they were living in California. But the incident happened in another state, and then they moved to California because their life, right, was in danger. So she is from Salvador. The mom is from Salvador. The child, she was born in the United States, and she was in the first grade. They were living in a one-bedroom apartment with her grandmother. And the reason for the referral was that she was presenting a lot of anxiety symptoms, irritability, and also because she experienced domestic violence, she was like really scared most of the time. Next slide, please. So she was, I would say that this family was, they were so amazing. I think this family was the dream family that we wish to have in therapy because they were consistent with therapy sessions. They were always on time. Mom was always like taking into consideration the recommendations, asking for questions, and they were really engaged through the therapy process. So they witnessed domestic violence. Their girl started witnessing since she was born. Both parents separated, and then an organization helped the mother to move from the other state to California. And one of the things that this girl expressed through therapy, it was no puedo hablar con mi papá. So it was like I cannot talk with my father. She was feeling sad at the same time that she was feeling let's say safe because she was far from her dad. At the beginning, she used to talk with the father on the phone. And when she talked with the father on the phone, like the mom always wants to make sure about what he says. So she always put him on speaker to check that he's not, or the girl is saying where they are and things like that for safety reasons. Okay. So some of the experiences or that the client shared was that when she was, thank you, when she was at home, several times she saw her father that he was drunk and he was drunk or he was yelling, he was angry most of the time. So this is something that she expressed through the therapy session. She was presenting depressive mood and anxiety and irritability also, and mostly toward her mom that was there for her. And the mom said like she's screaming sometimes at me, or she started crying for no reason. There were some times when she started crying at school, and she had flashbacks. That's something that she explained to me that she started thinking about when she used to live with the father and about the police officers. Because the image that usually our clients have that is really traumatic for them is when the police officers went to their house, or when the police officers arrest their father or mother. So she was presenting nightmares and also fear of the father, but at the same time, like she missed his father. No puedo hablar con mi papá. I think that after a few sessions, there was a restriction order and the mom let me know that they cannot have contact anymore through phone with the father. So this aggravated her symptoms a little bit more. This girl, even though she was experiencing those symptoms, a lot of symptoms, right, as we can see, she was all A's at school. She was an excellent student, and she is like a smart girl. Like she was able to memorize things. She was able to make questions to me and able to explain about why we were doing the therapy sessions and things like that. So her concentration and attention, it was there. It was functional. Next slide, please. One of the instruments that I used with this client was the Youth Outcome Questionnaire and the UCLA PTSD Reaction Index, just to explore about the symptoms that she was presenting. And we can go to the next slide, and you can observe the threshold and also how high she was experiencing those symptoms. So interpersonal distress, she was presenting some somatic symptoms that include headaches and stomachaches. Interpersonal relationships, she was like at 15. Because she moved to California, she did not have new friends, so that was a little bit difficult for her. Social problems, behavioral dysfunction, and the critical outcomes, it was at 10. So I want to provide this information because I want you to see the difference between this is the parent report, and then we're gonna see if we can go to the next slide. We can see the overall score that was 97. That it was really high for this girl. She also experienced some physical abuse by the father. Some of the things that she informed me, that the mom informed me, is like when the father was drunk and gets to the home, sometimes he started kicking her, right? And also the mom. So this also includes physical abuse and emotional abuse. So we can go to the next slide. On the next slide, we have the UCLA PTSD Reaction Index. And as we can see, she had a 14 in re-experiencing, on 7 in avoidance, 10 in arousal, and she did not have all the symptoms to be diagnosed with a PTSD. As you can see, she was like she was 30, below the threshold. So the next slide is the child's report about how she was feeling. It was almost the same like as the mom's report, right? She was experiencing was 13, avoidance was 8, arousal 7, and PTSD total was 28. So now I will provide a little information about the different components and what we did in therapy through all those components. I hope this could be helpful and you can have like some ideas of what to do with your clients or Latino clients while you're delivering the TF-CBT. So through adaptation, as I explained, I take extra time doing this. I put some videos on about what is trauma and how it affects us. And usually to start with the kids, I don't use the word trauma. In Spanish, I use trauma es cuando uno experimenta situaciones que son bien difíciles, que sientes muchas emociones fuertes en tu cuerpo y que en muchas ocasiones tú no puedes dejar de pensar en eso que te sucedió. So I try to start with that. Like you have really strong emotions, you cannot explain those emotions that you're experiencing, and also you cannot stop thinking about that event or that problem, right? And also explain to them that usually we don't want to talk to anyone about what we experience. We feel sad, we feel angry about the situation, and we want to hide this from everyone. So this is the way I usually try to explain about what is trauma and how it affects us, right? So I changed her name. I put a fake name, Mia. She experienced a lot of flashbacks and a lot of sadness. And we did like a coloring book that have different questions about what is your favorite room in your house, or what is your favorite activity. And I try to provide psychoeducation, but I also let her know, like almost at the end of the session, like 5 minutes before we end, we're gonna do another fun activity, just to have that balance, so she feels comfortable that we're reaching our goal, but at the same time that she was like, let's say, having some fun inside the therapy session, even though we use that information for our narrative, right? So we create a list of activities that she can do at home, or she can do at school, or activities that she can do when she was outside with the mom, like going to the park or going to the church or going to the store that she loves, like to be kisses usually, right? And also through the treatment, because they experience DV, domestic violence, I use the power and control wheel to explain the different situations that could happen when we are in a domestic violence relationship. And I think this was the most powerful, not just for the girl, but also for the mom. Because when I was explaining this to the girl, even though she was 6 years old, she was so bright and smart that even though I tried to use words that were more simple, the sessions were in Spanish and English too. I tried to use more simple words and bring examples. She was able to memorize this wheel, and when at the end of the session, I remember she said, "Mom, come here, I need to explain this to you." And she explained everything. Like he was thinking that he was the king of the castle. He wants to do, he wants everyone to do what he wants to do. So he was able to internalize and say that was like an aha moment for her. So I think this was a powerful instrument for them. This girl, I used that wheel because this girl was really smart. But for kids, maybe you can use something else. I think for adolescents, it would work a lot. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are some resources that you can use to provide psychoeducation. I add some Spanish resources about what is trauma, what is PTSD, right? The first one, and also questions about psychoeducation. That's a little different questions that you can ask to your clients to check if they already understand about what is trauma or what the common reactions to trauma also. And number 3 is pasos que las familias pueden tomar para hacer frente al trauma. There are different steps that family can do to defeat trauma, let's say. And this is for you to have those links and check it out. The next slide, there's also 2 resources that you can use while you're providing psychoeducation. A Family That Fights, and the other one, A Terrible Thing Happened. A Terrible Thing Happened is an amazing book. You can find it on Amazon. And it talks about emotions, how Sherman was feeling, and how he managed it, how helpful it was to talk about how he was feeling. So this is something else that you can use with the kids. The next component is relaxation. Describe a child a safe and effective breathing technique. And she usually loves to do the bubbles, was one, and breathing in and out. without the bubbles. She got the breathing in and out really quickly, so we used the bubbles just once. And also, one of the apps I used with her was the Palm app. We did like a body scan, and she loved it. And she said, I want to do this at home. So we let the mom know that she can download this app and they can practice together. Another thing that is part of the TF-CBT training is like to let them know the difference between tense and relax. So we did the spaghetti example. When a cooked spaghetti is really stiff, and then uncooked spaghetti is really stiff, right? And then cooked spaghetti is just more like wiggly, right? And she loved that exercise. So that's another technique you can use. Grounding exercises using the 5 senses is the one that I usually use. Put some music or drawing. I encourage you to check and explore what the kids love, right? And when you know through the psychoeducation what are the things that they love to do, then you can incorporate that through the delivery of the relaxation technique. Also with the mom, I let her know everything I was doing in therapy, and I practiced the deep breathing with the mom so she can know and encourage her to remind the girl at home when she was sleeping or when she was eating. And I always let them know, like, this is like a sport. If you practice it more often, you're gonna be better and better. So not just practice it when you're feeling angry, because it's not gonna work. We can go to the next slide. Here are other resources that for you therapists that are doing an amazing job. Thank you for being here. The relaxation, there's different things that you can add. The number 2, Caleta de la Nutria Marina, is the C author code. You can see the book there. It will help your clients to understand how to practice diaphragmatic breathing, to calm down, to lower the stress level, and also to control their anger. The next one is get relaxation, kids relaxation. I add here also the Calm app that also you can download. It's for free. Other of the resources that maybe you can incorporate is the app Epic. That is an app with different books that you can use. You can check out which one will work for you inside therapy sessions. The name of the app is Epic, E-P-I-C. For that one, you will need to pay, I don't remember how much monthly, but it's an amazing tool that you can use through telehealth, right? The next slide. So the effective expression and regulation, it helps to improve feelings and vocabulary and coping. It will help the clients to understand what are emotions, the meaning of those emotions, how I feel those emotions on my body. Usually I draw the body, right? The silhouette, and I let them know, okay, with the red one, when you feel angry, let me know where in your body do you feel that anger. Usually on the throat, usually on the hands, because I fix my hand, right? So this part is just to teach about emotions, right? And also validate those emotions. That it's okay sometimes to feel angry. That it's okay to feel sometimes mad or tired, right? And I think this is crucial with the Latinos, because as Latinos we usually, okay, that I'm sad or I'm crying, oh, that's okay, you don't need to cry, no tienes que llorar por eso. So this is just invalidating how they're feeling. And I always, when someone say that, no, I say no, let her cry or let him cry. It's okay to cry, and this is a safe place to cry, right? Because it is important to provide that education to the parents. It's not that they're gonna stop crying because they're crying because of something. Let's explore together what is happening, what the kid is thinking, and how they're feeling in their body. Something is happening, so we need to explore instead of invalidating that. Also, we can let them know, okay, maybe you're crying because you're sad because we are not going to Chuck E. Cheese's. We can because of the pandemic. We cannot go out. But I think I will feel sad too if that happened to me. So trying to put words and name those emotions, it is important in that process of validation. So with Mia, we identify different kind of emotions. We use the feeling thermometer, and I try to bring awareness of the emotions that she was experiencing. So this month, she was up to point. Like she was there, she was talking to her about how you're feeling, and also she was really validating to this girl. We can go to the next slide. So the cognitive coping component. Here are other resources that you can use with your clients. Here we help the clients to understand the connection between the thoughts and behaviors. That is so important, how they're interconnected. With my client, we use the app, the Triangle of Life, and she enjoyed it. I know that older kids does not like the graphic because they're not really good, but this is an amazing way. And now that we're doing telehealth, you can use the Triangle of Life in your sessions because they will learn how to identify what is an emotion or what is a behavior or what is a thought. So the number 2 here on the slide, 6 fábulas como moraleja para niños. So this is a YouTube channel, YouTube video where there are 6 different like short stories, and they you can check it out first and explore which one will help you with the specific client, right? And the next one is Caroline conquers her corona fear. It talks about what is the coronavirus and how Caroline she was brave enough and she did like different things to stay safe, like washing her hands and using the mask and things like that. So the next slide is an example of the cognitive triangle. Instead of negative thoughts, I usually try to use more adaptive and maladaptive thoughts, but sometimes with kids it's a little bit more easy to use negative and positive thoughts. So usually we can observe maybe clients that who say, I don't know how to speak in English, or all my classes are in English, I don't understand nothing at all, right? So maybe the actions or what they do, like they don't participate in the classes, they don't finish their homework, or they don't engage with other students, right? And that will make them feel like sad or lonely or anxious. So I tried to use this triangle. I remember that one of the other therapists, he actually used like different squares and I think like canastas, and he put it all around 3 canastas around the room, and he identified them with different like thoughts, action, and behavior. And they were playing like, what is a thought? And then they jump for the next one. What is a behavior? Or what is a thing? So that's another thing maybe that you can include if you're having clients in person, right? So the next one, I think the trauma narrative is one of the most difficult parts of delivering the therapy, but at the same time, is one of the components that heals our clients, I would say. I think one of the critics to this therapy, to this model, is that sometimes it puts the person to talk about that experiences where they don't want to, right? And this is something that we need to be very careful with, right? For this girl, I just let her know that beforehand, I let her and mom know, like, we're gonna talk about your experience. I want you to share. Um, I want you to share with me something that you remember that makes you feel really sad, or something that you have a lot of questions about, something that happened at home when you were living with your dad and your mom. But I want you to share the experiences that you want to share with me. Try not to force the client to share like a specific situation. So I try to let her know that this part we're gonna do it like it was like a short story, and I let her know it has a setting, it has characters, it has a problem, a solution. I printed out a paper with the different parts, and usually the first chapter she already started talking about her since the first and second session, because we use a coloring book that has a lot of things about her. So we incorporated that on the trauma narrative, so it was a little bit more easy. And she was able to write her narrative in Spanish and English, and she did just a beautiful drawing of every of her life, of beautiful moments that she experienced with her family, and also about who she was. So the next slide, we can see this is, I'm gonna show just two parts of the narrative. This was the happiest moment that she experienced, and it was when she was playing and she was with her family, and everyone had fun. And she said, she explained to me the whole day, and she was so happy because she won the prize, right? So the next chapter we can see on the next slide is the most difficult situation, or is the problem that she had a lot of questions about. And she explained that one time the father get her from the stomach, right? And she locked the mom outside the house, and it was in winter. So outside was so cold that she was worried that something could happen to her mom, and that happened because the father was angry, and she has a lot of questions regarding why he did that or why he was angry about. So before doing the narrative, I showed the narrative to the mom, and I went through the narrative with her before doing the session with the girl and the mom, right? So we try. Do you have questions about this? Do you want to explain to her what happened that day? Do you remember that specific day? And usually she did what a lot of moms do, like, really, like, she remembered that? Oh, wow, like, she was like 3 years old or 4 years old. I didn't know that she remembered that. She never told me about that she had questions about that incident. So doing that collateral session with the mom, it helped her to, like, say, wow, process her emotions, and also start thinking of different questions, and also be empathic with the client. So it was like really, it was difficult, but at the same time, the mom was able to practice the breathing with me there, just calm, and just let her know. I just let her know that it's okay, we're here. Let me know if you something else that we can work on. And with the session, when we had the session together with the client, she was really supported through the session, and she was answering the client's questions in a really appropriate way. So it was really powerful, right? It was really powerful. So we can go to the next slide. In the in-vivo exposure, as I mentioned, she had a lot of fears to police officers. Mom explained to me, like, when they were in the public transportation and she see police officers, like, they were like really far away, she started like shaking and crying. So through the different session, we worked through that. And one of the things that we did here, it was like I connect with a police officer, and he went to the office. But we worked with this before, and no, it wasn't that he went there and that I'm here. No, we worked with this since 3 or 4 sessions before, and I let her know that, what do you think if a police officer can come here, and let's try to think that you're a reporter, right? And she said, yes, it's okay. You're gonna be with me, and mom's gonna be here, so it's okay. So she felt like she said, okay, I want to do that. So I gave her different questions on a paper, and she had like sunglasses, and she sit down on the chair that I used to sit, and she started with her pencil and start asking him questions like, what do you do? Why do you arrest people? And what do you love about your job? Right? And she asked a lot of questions, and he was like amazed, like this little girl, like he's asking a lot of questions that make sense, right? And he, the police officer, he went without the uniform, right? He went in jeans and a t-shirt that it would help a little bit more to feel a little bit more safe, right? So he explained everything to her. She was smiling, she was engaging, she was like maybe thinking to be a police officer too. So I think this session went so well, and the mom was so proud of her, and she was like, yes, I did it. I'm a reporter now. So this was like a session that I will never forget because it was wonderful, right? So we can go to the next session, the next slide, sorry. So as I mentioned, like the session, the parent and child always go through all the components of the TF-CBT, right? And we can go to the next one, enhancing safety and future development. So here we talk, at the end of the session, we try to go through everything that we did, right? We made like a binder with everything, like with the different drawings, with the TF-CBT workbooks that we use also, with different pictures and different information regarding psychoeducation. We have everything in a binder, so she can look for it if she has any question or if she wants to practice something. So she had it with her. So in the enhancing safety and future development, in this session, like we have like 3 or 4 sessions here, and we just ask about, can you remember what is trauma? Can you let me know what it means? And she was able to say it, like it's something difficult that you experience and you have a lot of emotion, or you don't want to talk about it. And she was able to explain everything to me, and also the skills that you usually practice to calm herself down. And the other was, and the other one was we wrote in, because sometimes she had a lot of nightmares, we wrote in a pillow, the pillow sheet, we wrote different words that helped her to feel more empowered, right? She wrote like, I'm safe, I'm relaxed, I'm happy. So we use markers that are for toes, that you can use on toes. So that's something maybe that you can add. And the main reason for this session is to provide to our clients safety. If this happened, what you could do. Like if someone hurts you, or if you have a friend that the father are kicking her or hitting her, what we can do and how we can stop this, right? So the next slide are the results of the the post intervention. As you can see on the next slide, as you can see, a lot of symptoms just dropped a lot. So the somatic symptoms went to 0. She wasn't experiencing headaches or stomach aches anymore. And when I saw this, I was like amazed, like, oh my God, this worked, right? And we have that aha moment, like, wow, I'm so happy, I'm so amazed. Because the reason for the therapy was that to make her feel better, to heal, right, through heal her emotions, and also work with those thoughts and regarding the situation that she experienced in her life. So when we saw that, we were amazed. I shared this with my supervisor that was a TF-CBT certified, and she was amazed. We can see the next slide. The total score just dropped from 97 to just 60. And I think this is a work from the clients and a work that the mom did, because they were engaging. They were, the mom was really motivated with the therapy. She was on time always. She was practicing at home some of the recommendations, right? And they did an amazing job in the session. So the next slide, we can observe the USCL PTSD reaction index, and the experiencing went from 14 to 4, avoidance 3 to 7 to 3, arousal from 10 to 4, and from the PTSD total from 30 to 11. So she was almost not experiencing any symptoms, right? The next slide, we can observe the child's report. That was almost the same as the mom's report. And I usually do the sessions separate, right? And it was almost the same. So we can go to the next slide. Here I want just to provide a little bit more resources that you can have. The TF-CBT workbook in Spanish and English, in Español and Inglés. Also, you have that one for adolescents. It is in Spanish and English. I put that link there. You just click and you have it. It's for free. Because I know as a therapist, I used to work in Massachusetts, and I know that there's a lot of things that are not in Spanish, and there's a lot of resources in Spanish. So I want you to provide those resources. Dealing with trauma. Okay, the next one is in Spanish. We can go to the next slide. If you, as me, love this therapy, you can have training and be certified. It takes, I think, like a year to be certified. But I think this is one of the models that I love to use, right? And here are the links where you can get that training. The book that I use for this presentation is the Trauma Focused CBT for Children and Adolescents. And remember that the chapter 10 is the one that is talks about the adaptations to Latino. And it was written by Adolescents. That he's doing an amazing job. So there's another research that I want to share with you, and it's a research. The name is Addressing Barriers to Care Among Hispanic Youth, Telehealth Delivery of TF-CBT. Again, Addressing Barriers to Care Among Hispanic Youth, Telehealth Delivery of TF-CBT. That research was by Seward, Orengo Aguayo, Gilmore, and Michael Arellano. And I think that this is something we can use as therapists right now. And what they found it was that providing TF-CBT to telehealth was really effective for clients. They did an amazing job because they give the parents an iPad where they can have the session while they were at home or while they were driving. Even though this research was published in 2017. So one of the things that I was amazed with that I'm gonna start doing is that they send like stickers or letters or notes to their clients through mail. So some of the parents were saying on that research that the kids were so excited because they were receiving mail. So this is something that could be helpful. And also, if our clients does not have like a printer, and you want to send them like a packet that you can use through the therapy session, that will be a good thing to do to send it through mail, right? So the next slide are the references, and if someone has any questions, so I would say thank you very much to everyone that is here. I think this case, I hope that this will help a little bit more to providers to have in mind like how to incorporate different values and be aware that every family is different, and to explore what is the most significant cultural value in the families that we're working with and try to incorporate. For the client that I presented, the family was one of the most important besides the value of spiritualidad, right? So that's something else that we apply through our sessions. So if anyone has more questions, there's my contact information. If you have any questions, you can write me an email. I will be happy to answer. And remember, like I always say thank you to all the participants and to all the providers that are there working with Latinos, because not every provider work with Latinos or Latinas. So thank you.
Thank you, Doctora Chavarria. We got a couple of questions, and the first one says, how is fatalismo similar or different from hopelessness?
Can you ask that again? Sorry, can you repeat it?
Yeah, it says, how is fatalismo similar or different from hopelessness?
Okay, I think it's almost the same, right? It is related. Because fatalismo, it means that this is something that is going to be like this and it's going to be like this forever. And hopelessness is like you don't have hope about things to change, like things can change in the future. So I would say they are strongly related. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Another question says,
And
if
also, Cindy,
yes,
sorry. And also, I
go
will add to that. I will add that when it's fatalismo, I think it's more related to a religious belief than hopelessness, right? Because hopelessness is like everyone can experience it, but when we use fatalismo, usually is when people have religious beliefs, that believe that God did this and nothing's gonna change. Okay.
thank you for that. Our next question is addressing the different assessment that you share with us, and they're asking if you know or if you know where or if you have them translated into Spanish.
Okay. So the one, which one? The youth one or PTSD?
Yeah, I think the well, I'm not sure. It was almost like a half an hour ago the question, so maybe the first ones that you shared, because I know you share a couple.
Okay. I don't know which one exactly, but I sent to the chat box the one that is UCLA PTSD index, but this one is DSM-4. I know there's one of DSM-5, but actually I don't have it. The other, the youth one, okay, the other assessment, the other one you need to pay for that one, but it is in Spanish. The youth outcome questionnaire, it is in Spanish, and also the UCLA PTSD index, the version of DSM-5, also, it is also in Spanish.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and someone else wrote that if you can just share both, that's awesome. And then
Okay.
you also share a book, and someone asked if you could repeat the name of the book that you previously shared.
I don't remember which book. I said that TF-CBT one is one of the books that I mentioned. I mentioned the Sea Otter Cove, Caleta de la Nutria Marina. This is another book that I'm sharing here. I think this is an amazing book that I use usually with teenagers, superhero therapy, and they usually love it. And it talks about different stories with people that experience anxiety, depression, and trauma. And it's an amazing tool to use with teenagers. It's from Janina Fisher, that she is amazing. And one of the recommendations of Janina Fisher is that when we have clients, instead of asking how do you know when you feel sad, or how do you know when you feel angry, one of the recommendations that she said is that instead of that, ask how do you think? How do you think? How do you can acknowledge when you're feeling this way? So it will help the person to think about more about the things. I don't remember other books. A Terrible Thing Happened was another book.
Thank you,
I
Isa.
sure.
Our next question says, if you chose the diagnostic assessment specifically because they work with cultural differences, because the person that wrote the question said that they use MID with the trauma clients to rule out and get a better idea for diagnosis.
Can you repeat that again? Sorry, Cindy.
Okay, let me do it inverted. Okay, so the person that wrote the question said that they use MID with trauma clients to rule out and get a better idea for diagnosis. And then the question, with that said, was if you chose the diagnostic assessment specifically because they work with cultural differences.
I don't know what is MID. I actually don't know what is MID. Um, so there were differences in the cultural assessments that I used.
Yeah,
And I
I think what they were trying to
uh-huh.
is the fact that they use another assessment for diagnosis, and I
Mm-hmm.
think they're actually asking if you chose the one you chose because of cultural differences.
Okay. So the one that I choose, the two assessments one, is because the agency, there was a proposal for the agency, and we need to use those assessments instruments. But also, I know that on the book, on the chapter 10, Dr. Arellano, he recommends some assessments also. And in the book, in the first pages of the book, you also we see in the assessment, you can see on the assessment area, it will let you know different types of assessment instruments that you can use. But yeah, you're right. Not all the assessments are culturally sensitive. This is something that is real. So I encourage students or people that are working on the academics to in academia to develop different assessment instruments for Latinos.
Thank you, Isa. Another question says, how did you administer the measures that you provided before? And how about how long did it take the child, or if it was the mom that filled them out?
Okay. So one of the assessments was the both of them. I used one session with the mom. I let her know that we're gonna have a session. I wanna ask you different questions. The assessment was in Spanish. All the sessions with her were in Spanish because she's Spanish, and it took me, I would say, like 15 minutes. And usually because it asks a lot of difficult questions, I try to let them know we are not in a hurry. Take your time, and I try to establish the engagement before doing those questions because they are really strong questions um, regarding about trauma, like if somebody hit you. Um, some of the questions are really difficult. So I try to establish first the engagement with the client and with the family, and then I will proceed to ask those questions. But the one both of them I did it with the kids and the mom. So the youth one, it have different ages. It is for teenagers, but also for children. They have two versions. The youth outcomes questionnaire. Um, and with the girl, we have like a graphic where she can see, and she can respond like most of the time, frequently. It was more visual, so that helps her to answer um, more clearly. So I did not have both of them doing the answering the questionnaires in the same room. I first met with mom, and then I had a session just with the girl.
Thank you once again. Um, keep going through. We have a couple of comments and also questions. This one says, do you have any resources explaining trauma or videos in Spanish for parents and clients?
Okay. You say videos in Spanish and what else?
Resources or videos in Spanish.
Okay. So on the same presentation, I hope you can download. I don't know who asked the question, but in the presentation, you have the link, the hyperlink, and you just click and it will open. On the handout area, you have it here. There for you. That's why I try to do the hyperlink so you can have it. But on YouTube, one of the videos I usually share with my clients is from Nadine Burke. She's a pediatrician from California, and she has a TED Talk about trauma and adverse childhood experiences. So that video is in English, but you can add the subtitles in Spanish. So that is one of the videos that I usually love to use with my clients. And I use the stuff, I explain, then I put play, then I explain a little bit more. So I think that one is really, really powerful, but you need to use that one maybe with teenagers and with the parents. So this will let them know, this will explain to them that trauma is not something that is invented, that actually it is in our body, that just like the book, our body keeps the score. And I think it is a really powerful resource to use.
Thank you, Ethan. I just added the link for the TED Talks. I found it. So it's on the chat if anyone want to get a hold of that link. I just put it there. And then I'm gonna do our last question so that we don't take time away from people. And it says, thank you so much for this. My question is, how do you suggest marketing school-based therapy services to parents, especially in Spanish? And then I think these are like examples she gave us: terapeuta escolar, as in school-based clinician, and that's with a question mark, and then or consejera, as in counselor.
Okay, so the question was how I encourage maybe the parents and the child to be in therapy.
No, like how would you suggest marketing in terms of like to parents, especially when you're translating? Like I guess the question goes into like how it should be addressed for them to um like accept it in a sense. I think that's where the question is moving towards, because you know that there's some issues with psicólogos, and you know some of the language in Spanish that we can use might make them not want to engage in therapy. So how can they market it in a way that Spanish speaking parents will feel I don't know, like they would go towards
Mhm.
that instead of like running away from it.
Okay. Um, yes, I know that sometimes when we use trauma and therapy are like words that we as a therapist we are more used to. Maybe I would say we can market it as a support group. I think that's more easy. Like their parents and they need support each other regarding different things. Maybe if we can create like a support group, maybe right now through Zoom, and just starting there, like checking what are the needs of those parents, what are the struggles they are experiencing with their kids, and right now that they have so much work to do, like maybe working from home and also studying for with the kids and um, doing the classes and watching the videos and things like that. So we market it as a support group for parents, like maybe a self-care group for parents also, where the parents can learn different coping skills like breathing and progressive relaxation, and maybe starting with that and let them know that this self-care activities is something that you can share with your kids, or this is something that you can do with the kids, and we can start from there. I think that will be my recommendation.
So
And you
to
try to
more
work,
person,
maybe work in
sorry.
Spanish also. Use words in Spanish and create educational materials in Spanish. Create, if you have a website, you can post information in English but also in Spanish, because if everything is in English and the person is like first generation Latino, right, that moved immigrated to the United States and everything is in English, if and they don't know how to speak English, they are not gonna go. So try to use things that are related to the culture and things and write things in Spanish too.
So two more person from the audience added a little bit also to that questions in terms of what the question was related to. And so I'm gonna read it. I know they wrote it in Spanish, but I'm gonna read it in English. So how could
Okay.
they promote their jobs using a title that is more accepted by the Latinx community? And yeah, that's what both of them said basically. Like how can they promote their job titles with words that are more accepted on that community?
Okay. So the job title, you mean like if they have like their psychology or things like that, and they want to provide services in a community? That's what you're saying?
No, it's related to the question you just answered. I was just like trying to explain it better because some of the audience did, and that's what they were talking about. So how can they promote their job, as in their title, in the school setting, to make it more appealing for those Latinx parents to come?
Okay.
I would say community workers could be one. Un título profesional para usar, para hacerlo más atractivo ese. Or okay. Podemos quizás utilizar, maybe we can use a thing like self-care or consejera. It's related to the people that is going to work, maybe consejeras or community workers. It could be another word. I want to make sure that I'm responding that question.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did both times. I just wanted to make sure that you understood like the whole phrase. I'm sorry for that. It caused any confusion.
It's okay. The person that asked the question, you can send me an email, right? You can write to me an email, and I can go through that question and look at how we can help you, because the National Hispanic and Latino is here to help the providers that are working there in the field and need support with how to engage different parents or engage different cultures inside the Latino cultures, right? So send me an email. I'll be happy to help and provide some ideas, right? Thank you.
Yeah, and if like if they get confused or if it's easier to email us, where any emails that you get like from the webinar, you can just email us, and I'll make sure that I forward it to Isa so that she can respond directly to you. And with that said, that was our last question. I don't know, Isa, if you want to say anything, but before you do, I wanted to thank everybody for coming today. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties that we had at the beginning. And I also wanted to remind everyone that you can fill out our survey, which you have on screen right now. That's how we keep doing this awesome work that we do. I love reading that we get a lot of people that come back from many of our trainings. So we're glad you came back and that you're here. And Isa, if you want to say something before we go ahead.
I would say thank you very much to all of you, and also I know that this is a difficult time for the ones that are working with kids and are working from home, right? I know that it's difficult, but I'm happy to those mental health providers that are here, and we can do this. Thank you.